Welcome to From the Floor. I'm Gordo. This is the podcast where we have conversations that actually matter. The name means three things to me. The shop floor, where the real work gets done. The arena, where you actually take the hits and do your research. This is just a step off point. It's up for you to commit to do more research, not just to believe Gordo or any of the guests. Do your research. Today's guest, I have Dustin Wiebe, former infantry, recce, sniper, close protection, special missions unit, CSOR operator, turned entrepreneur, health advocate to veterans. Welcome, brother.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good, dude. Once a month, guys, we're going to be putting on a podcast specific to Stronghold Wellness. So that's going to be everything to do with the Stronghold Wellness ecosystem. So therapy, treatment options, lived experience, guys who've gone through it and they want to tell their stories, what we're working on, what's in the hopper for the future, and what we're building.
Thanks for having me. This is a real pleasure to, talk about and hopefully bring some more awareness around, the veteran healthcare space. Why does Stronghold Wellness exist? That's a good question, man. For me, it started when, so I'm a veteran. I was in for 22 years. You rattle off some of my resume there. I started infantry as a reservist, and then I went infantry reg force. I was reconnaissance, became a sniper. I did the CP stuff. And then I applied for CSOR as an operator, and then our special missions unit. And then I medically retired in the summer of 24. And so, I tell people this story not as to highlight my career by any means, but it kind of shows my journey. And then by the end of my journey, I was left in a position where I needed some physical and mental help. And I thought I had tried everything, and still there was room for improvement. And so when I was at the Hill, sometimes being at a unit like that, you hear about these leading edge therapy treatments or leading edge therapy options and different treatments guys are trying for whatever reason. And I heard about Dr. Chris Freed from down in the States, who had done a peer-reviewed medical study on the assaulters at Delta Force, guys we'd work with. And he noticed that they were experiencing very similar physical and mental symptoms. And, when I took a look at that list, and I checked off pretty much all of them still after all the therapy that I had done. It led to the question of so now what can I do for myself to get, just to feel better. And so, after kind of deep diving into his information a little bit more, and then having conversations with, you and Dave, we're now co-founders. That question led to, if I'm feeling this way, I'm sure there's other veterans who are going to be feeling this way. So what can we do for our veteran community? And then we had three things in mind. It's what therapies are going to be effective for veterans? What therapies are maybe veterans aren't aware of? And hopefully there's a high probability of coverage through Veterans Affairs and Blue Cross. And so that kind of, led to Stronghold Wellness starting up and us kind of exploring some of these alternative treatments.
Yeah, damn, dude, you were really able to hit the nail on the head, and it was perfect timing, because where I was at with the whole charity sector and trying to figure out what is going on in the Canadian landscape for veterans, Chris Freed was one of the guys I brought up to brief the units on operator syndrome, and it was perfect timing that all of a sudden out of left field came Dustin and Dave talking about operator syndrome, and it just fit perfectly. So that was that's almost 2 years ago now. 2024, I think, is when we started shop talking this, late summer, trying to figure out how we could square this circle or circle the square, round the square, one of those ones. But we've come a long, long way, and it's something that I thought would be not what it is today. That's for sure. It's felt like every time we've turned and thought we've addressed something within the veteran community, another thing opens up where it's just like, whoa, people aren't doing this right. they're not getting information about it, and they're not getting quality information about any of the treatment modalities that are out there. And I think it's cool that we are leaning into alternative therapies, but they're not really alternative at all. These things are just not spoken about. And little do veterans know is that they actually have coverage for some of them. So why don't you tell us about some of the coverage options, or that's a bad way to say that. Is it not? Why don't you tell us a little bit of what kind of services does Stronghold Wellness have and partnerships across the medical landscape in Canada?
Yeah, man. So over the past, we kind of started Stronghold Wellness, as you know, it was a bit of a slow burn. And, when the thought came into my mind to start this up, and me approaching you and Dave, I understood that you were kind of already in the space, and I thought it was a perfect fit. And Gordo, you and I, we've known each other for years. And as far as like personality goes, you're one of the greats. So it just made sense. I knew the message was definitely going to get out there if we partnered up on this and if we started it, and it sure is. So it worked out amazing. You're right. The timing couldn't have been better, and it was just really, it was meant to be. But so, going back to your question regarding some of the treatments and the things that we can help veterans access. So we're like a veteran health navigation platform. We've partnered up with, keeping those 3 questions in mind that I mentioned earlier about, therapies that veterans aren't aware of, high probability of coverage, and effectiveness. So we kind of landed on after we asked ourselves those 3 questions, we landed on, and especially with your background, it kind of led us to, ketamine psychotherapy, or ketamine as an option that worth looking into. And then transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, as well as like stellate ganglion block shots, medical cannabis, and then just mental health facilitation as well. And so what we've done since we've decided to go full on this, we've partnered up with clinics across Canada that can provide these treatment options for veterans who are eligible. Unfortunately right now, not every veteran is going to be eligible for these therapies, but that's why, we're doing what we're doing. And that's why you're doing what you're doing as an advocate for this, is to increase that access. Because, I can't tell you, since we've really turned this on in November, we've had thousands and thousands of people click on our educational ads. And out of those thousands of people, we've had almost 3,000 veterans specifically give us their information to be called and get booked in for a call to get more information on and educated on, operator syndrome and these other treatment options and modalities. So that's what we've done. We've just called every single one of them. And going back to what I was saying, if you are a veteran with certain eligibility points, you can get access to these things. But if you're someone who's still serving and hurting and feeling the pressure, feeling whatever symptom that you're feeling, it's like you're right away. Like that's one of our first questions is like, okay, are you still serving? And if they say yes, unfortunately, I'll tell them, I'm like, this is going to be an uphill battle for you. There might be a way for you to accomplish this through your chain of command, through your medical chain of command. But I'm sorry, I can't help you. We can't do anything about that. So that's what we're obviously trying to change as well. But anyways.
Well, we still give them the pitch. We still give them all the education, and we still able to tell them what operator syndrome is. But it's just, and the same thing goes with first responders, because we get a lot of first responders reaching out to us looking for help. And it's like, okay, well, they're covered by their provincial healthcare, but that's not the same thing as RCMP and veterans. And even then, Veterans Affairs is kind of a beast to navigate. And that's why we're a medical education navigation platform, I guess. That's like the weirdest mouthful ever. But we don't provide any of these services. We don't refer to any one clinic. We're able to keep our hands clean by just giving the information, like bro to bro to sister, soldier to soldier is the best way to explain it. And that is why it's been so effective in talking to thousands of veterans. And it's we when we started this thing, like the people that were taking the calls was us, right? And it's one thing. It's been not. I don't know if enjoyable is the right word, but it's almost been like I don't know what it is like in Manitoba in high school, but when I grew up in Ontario in high school, it was like forced volunteer hours. You had to do the 40 hours during your time. Did you have that? Okay. So it feels similar to that because you and Dave, like, I know you guys love it now, and I know you especially love talking to veterans, but at the beginning, I was like, well, I don't know if these guys know what they're in for, dipping their toes in the water, taking calls with veterans who are like, some are in crisis, some are all messed up, some don't have anywhere to turn, some are on their last legs. And it's like, I actively chose to go into that world with the advocacy stuff, but to see you guys navigate it and get a real mouthful and eye-opening experience of like, whoa, what type of crisis the veteran community is in Canada. And it's even it surprised me more than ever because I'm so singularly focused on this advocacy piece that then when I take the blinders off and I'm not just looking at like a psychedelic realm, it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's people here that are hurting way more and they don't know anything about psychedelics. It's just the landscape is very sad. So could you give me your take on what was that like?
Dude, you're right. It's crazy, man. You know, especially when you're taking calls every single day with veterans who are, you know, looking to get better, you really get a pulse on the situation. The ground truth is how I always call it. You know, and being a veteran myself who was in that need at one time, you know, I understood it intimately, but now I'm hearing it just constantly from other veterans. It really identified a serious gap in veteran treatment and in veteran, like in the veteran space and what veterans are looking for and the struggles that they're facing and how long they've been facing these struggles. And, you know, when they have a conversation with me and I open up with a little bit of my background and telling them like, hey, you know, okay, these are my experiences. This was the pain that I felt or whatever it is. You're not the only one, but I'm telling you right now, as a veteran to a veteran, I'm sure as shit going to do my damnedest to help you get better. And I always lead with like, you know, I've done all of these therapy options myself and the impact that it had on my life was extremely positive. You know, like I had a huge issue with being present and being able to connect, you know, redlining it for 22 years in the career that I had. Like it took 22 years to turn me into that soldier, into that person to be really effective at my job. And now I transition and get out. And now I'm supposed to be like, you know, a dad of four little ones and a husband and be present and to like be able to be that role model at home. It's like, it's tough. It's fucking tough, man. And so that's why, you know, when I tell a little bit of this story with veterans, it really opens up and I think the effectiveness really increases. And then obviously we try to do our best to get them to connect them with the right people and right clinics.
Right. And when we talk about the alternative therapies or these new treatment modalities that we're bringing forward, it's not to take away anything that's on the menu that was there before. It's just to open it up for more options where it's like, hey, guess what? The byproduct or the occupational health risk of doing a job in combat arms or police officer, firefighter, some sort of high risk, high tempo job, is the fact that you are rewiring yourself and your actions, your brain, how you're functioning. And then when you get off the train and you're at home, it's not the same. And so sometimes, hey, not all the time, the traditional treatments, sure, they have their place. Sure, they can be effective. But how can we get them to be effective faster? How can we get you back to what a normal state is? And sometimes, not always, but what we're finding is a lot of these alternative therapies are really a boost to people's rehabilitation.
I was gonna say, and the thing too, it's not even about 100% better. You know, let's start with 5, 10, 15%. Like that's a big deal, man. You know, like those go a long way. And and just talking more about, what I've noticed talking with veterans is like, there is a huge gap here. It's our careers and everything we've done in our life has been everything has a purpose, and everything has an intent to be effective in whatever way that's supposed to be, as far as mission focused and just the things that we do, the skill sets or whatever, everything is like to accomplish something. And so when you get out and you talk to veterans and like the system is it just seems so busted up and so confusing. And it's just like, and then we see that problem. It's like, okay, let's fix this. And so that we're actually creating results on what we're doing. So it's just not wasted effort across the board. And it's going back to, as I talk with veterans every day, it's, man, the holes, the gaps constantly reveal themselves more and more. And it just, what are we going to do about it? We're just going to keep trying to find the solutions to this stuff. It really isn't difficult. The problem is very easy, from our perspectives to see, because we're the ground truth. But it's like, what's difficult is well, one of the things is getting access to it, is getting these institutions to be like, to bite off on this stuff. Look at the statistics around this stuff. It's funny look at the statistics on how effective it is, but it's funny how you still get an answer from guys we talk to about this stuff. It's just like, it's kind of fringe therapies, is there really science backing this stuff up? It's like, buddy, yeah, there's tons of science. Like, that's not an excuse anymore to say, like, even when I say alternative therapies, when I talk about this stuff, it's like, initially I was like, okay, yeah, I like this word about what we're doing, but now it's not so much, because it's like, this isn't an alternative therapy. This isn't like the fringe stuff. This is like really good science-backed stuff. Treatment options for guys that can make a difference for you right now, can heal right now. So anyways,
I think it's a good segue then. So if someone, we'll do this. What are some of the treatment options you went over like pretty quick before? Let's dig into those and give a little bit of an overview to each one.
So one of the first therapy options I like to tell veterans about is transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS. So TMS is a completely non-invasive procedure that uses a device that uses magnets to stimulate the brain. And I'm by no means, a medical professional on this, but how I understand it is this kind of reawakens those dormant parts of the brain. And it can be really effective for physical and mental symptoms that are related to PTS, related to pain and other things. So, when I talk about this with veterans who are, a little weary on treatment options, this is a potentially a good first treatment option to look at, because as far as its effectiveness, the feedback has been super positive from veterans who've done it. I've done it myself. I did a 50% protocol. I didn't do the whole protocol just because I didn't have time when I was doing it. But even the 50% protocol, I felt a major difference. For me, it was, it just kind of felt like there was a weight coming off my shoulder, some clarity, brain fog was kind of less, and it was just kind of uplifting. So those were the effects that I felt. And as far as, maintaining those effects, when I left, I would say, obviously the real world and the natural stressors that we face every day will pull you down a little bit, but I've definitely maintained some of those effects for sure. And so, so that's one of the first therapy options that I like to tell veterans about.
Yeah, it's got a lot of science and data behind it, and it's a lot more easy to digest for mainstream people, for more people that are leery of dissociative medicines like ketamine, or having to take something that's going to put them in an altered state, even cannabis. Whereas TMS, like, you put a brain bucket on and it's got the magnets, they map out your brain, they find out the part that's not firing. So depression, other brain ailments, your brain isn't firing. It's like neurologically, there's not a signal getting sent there, and that's what's actually happening inside your brain. And these magnets that send a magnetic pulse are kind of like boosting a car battery. They're just like forcing your brain to physiologically have a signal get sent to that portion of the brain that's not firing. So you're boosting a part of your brain physiologically. These are all interrupters. I like to call these things interrupters because you're having a physiological interruption to a pattern that's happening within your body. So something's not firing in your brain to that area. Okay, well, they use a magnetic pulse that wakes up that part of your brain and it forces a signal to get sent there, which starts forcing your brain to use that portion of the brain. So obviously neither of us are doctors. So that's why I talk about it like a car battery, but it's non-invasive, guys. So when we think about non-invasive, that means you could have your phone, you're sitting there, you're chilling out, you're not getting put under, you're not going to feel an overwhelming change in your perception or your mood at that time. It comes on generally. It comes on a little bit slower with time, but you're not going to have something where you can't drive your car at the end of the day. It's actually a pretty chill treatment. It made me, I did this stuff with Dustin as well, and my jaw was like doing that every time it would zap. It's only like, there's a whole bunch of different protocols, guys, but it's not long in length. They try to do it like once every hour for a couple minutes. Like I said, there's a lot of different protocols. So, but it's nothing, you're not sitting down and then taking a psychedelic and going off to another land and coming back. Yeah, it's something that I think the in-service people, I think the military and other like policing, any of these insurance companies, they're going to wake up and see how effective these treatments are, and they're going to start instituting this stuff in service, because why would we wait till someone's out of service broken when you can get people back to work? So TMS, repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, or transcranial magnetic stimulation, are both options that are I think the next one of the biggest bounds in mental health, in my opinion. So, and it doesn't freak out the government as much as like cannabis or any type of psychedelic, let alone ketamine. So I'll break down ketamine for everybody. Ketamine is a dissociative, so it's been used for a long time now within the medical establishment, which makes it a known commodity, and they know the side effects of it. They know the dosing protocols behind it. They know how much they can use, what it will do. And with that, depending on the state, so Veterans Affairs Canada will only fund pharmacological intervention. So I believe for like pain, they don't believe in using ketamine as a quote unquote psychedelic or into a dissociative state, which is neither here or there. We're not here to comment on this podcast, but there needs to be some guardrails around the use of it. Even if you use it for a pharmacological intervention, if you're using it for chronic pain, if you're using it for something specific that Veterans Affairs says that they will cover it, you have to understand that there's going to be an altered sense of reality. And along with that, we need to make sure that we have a care team with us to make sure that we are understanding what's happening to our mind at the time, how we can break that down, what happened on the trip. All of these, it's 100% going to happen if you're going to do ketamine, guys. If you're going to try ketamine for whatever reasoning, you must have a mental health care team with you, and you must know going into it that it's going to cause an altered state, and that means you're going to be in a fragile state, and you need to make sure that you have some things in place, safeguards in place for you to make sure that you're anchored back to reality. And how can you integrate that into your life? Oh, I took ketamine and I was chased by a big fridge. And when I stopped running, the fridge door opened and it was my mom from when I was a child standing there. And what does that mean other than you're scared and freaked out? Well, if you have a therapist who's trained in this type of stuff, they're going to break it down and they're going to understand your history. And it's like, well, maybe something happened in your childhood where the fridge and your mom actually represent something. And then you integrate that into your life where you're like, oh, right, the fridge represented this. My mom coming out of it represented that. And now I can like make a link and I can feel better about whatever's hampering me in life. I know it sounds kind of vague, but does that make sense as I'm talking?
Oh, buddy. Yeah, like the messaging is so powerful, and you're right, man. It's so helpful to have someone there to help, kind of decipher that messaging. And when you do, man, like the benefit is so so profound. It was one of the most profound experiences of my life, and doing it with the cohort and you know, a group of 7 other soft guys. It was just like, yeah, you know, it was incredible. It was really incredible.
Did you think that you would have had the same efficacy if you were just doing it by yourself
No,
in a
oh
room?
buddy, you know, like, I mean, you hear guys, you know, trying psilocybin with magic mushrooms and stuff like that. And, you know, you can shoot from the hip and go out in the woods and do this, you know, hopefully safely as possible and have an effect. But as far as like, you know, comparing the two experiences with someone who is a professional and who can help you, like I said, you know, prep you for the experience and then help you do the integration piece and decipher the messaging and understand the experience, the effectiveness is so much more. I would say that it's almost equally as powerful as the experience itself. And, you know, this is one of the things Stronghold does too, is like, you know, we are building a team of mental health professionals that really understand that realm and know how to like communicate with veterans. And so that it's like, you know, like with everything that we're doing, we're trying to create the best care for veterans that we possibly can. You know, we're trying to get the best people. We're trying to like, you know, get the ground truth to build what we think is, well, it's not even what we think, it's what everyone, what will actually work for veterans, you know? So, yeah, man.
It feels really natural to do all of this stuff. And it's like, because we are it, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? We
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
living it. So it's more confirming when we're speaking to veterans and finding out about this stuff and being like, right, I feel that way too.
Yeah.
Okay. Then what else we have? We have, we'll talk about medical cannabis.
Yeah, man.
What do you think about that?
Dude, it like with any of these things, you know, these are all tools. They're all tools to consider. And I think medical cannabis definitely has its place for sure. When I talk to veterans about medical cannabis, I like to, you know, make sure that, you know, for me, I start with what worked for me, you know, kind of angle on things. And for me, it was like, you know, I really benefit from the topical creams for my pain management, for my, you know, like I have chronic pain, bad back, you know, sore knees, shoulders, list goes on. And so, and then I also used it for my sleep disturbance. And I've been able to taper off of it doing some of these other treatments like the ketamine, like the TMS, but I still have it in my toolbox. And it's something that I do regularly go back to. And obviously all the THC stuff that has its benefits as well. But I like to make sure that every veteran I talk to sure as heck knows that, like, you know what, there's resources out there right now, like cannabis nurses. There's when you talk to the clinic, like, make sure that you're asking about how can I build the best protocol for myself so that this tool is going to be as most effective as it can be. And I think in the past, there was a huge gap there and people weren't really understanding, like, I mean, cannabis has been around for ages, you know, obviously not legalized, but people have been, you know, smoking joints, forever. And so people thought they knew cannabis, you know, people thought they knew how to navigate that space. And the people who didn't have experience were like, well, you know, you see all these other dudes, you know, they grew up seeing other people, you know, probably smoking it here and there. And so they were somewhat familiar with it, but now as a veteran, you know, using it for medical purposes, it's a different world, man. And going into it not educated, not having a proper protocol, it can be a slippery slope and not for the better. So I'm a huge advocate for cannabis. I think it's a great tool, but I think also at the same time, it's like education is crucially key for that. And people may think, oh, it's just cannabis, but no, man, it's not just cannabis. Like these are legit medicines. So that's how I like to talk about it.
Echoing the protocol and what works for you is one of the more important things to say when it comes to medical cannabis, because like you said, we just get so focused on thinking it's all about smoking left-handers outside the local arena on a Saturday night, smoking a 700% THC baseball bat laden with crystal goo GGs. And it's like, like you said, it's a slippery slope, man. If people abuse any of these treatments, people abuse anything, it can be bad. And coming down to the education and knowledge is really something that the veteran needs to take some ownership in. And one of our taglines within, or one of our beliefs within Stronghold Wellness is that like, hey, remember in the military, self-aid, buddy aid, self-aid comes first. And that means you need to take ownership. If you're down, if you're feeling sad, if you're having a bad day, roger that. We're going to be there. We're going to like take the knee with you, hook you up with some watered down Gatorade and some tiny little oranges, let you have a rest for 5 minutes, and then tell you to ruck up. And that's what we all need to do. And that comes from sometimes from that internal drive. And that also comes with our health. So understanding what you're getting into with medical cannabis, I would agree with you, is probably more important than, or just as important as the medicine itself. CBD, CBN, CBG, all these different variants. We still aren't looking into it the way we should. As a country, we should be a global leader in dosing protocols and how we can use this for post-traumatic stress, chronic pain, sleep disruption. And for some reason, we're still not. So that's okay. That's okay. Like you said, it's a tool in the toolbox. What about, what else do we have? We have hormone optimization. We didn't talk about that at the beginning. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Like hormone optimization, I can speak from it from a male point of view. And, obviously our demographic is mostly males, but I know there's a female piece here as well, which I can't speak to, unfortunately. Right? But from a male point of view, as you age, as you've been under stress for many years, as you've been exposed to toxic environments, blast over pressures, recoil from different caliber weapons, like these things can affect your hormone levels. And so what we've done is we've partnered up with some really good clinics that can help individuals, help veterans, at least do the blood rec. You do the blood checks, and then they have consultations with veterans. They do it all for free. And then they can provide the guidance on how they see fit, or what the best possible road is for you to manage that. And that could be TRT, it could be other modalities within the hormone optimization space. So it's definitely another very non-invasive procedure, especially for male veterans to check, is because it can really help with mood regulation. It can really help with energy levels and your sleep disturbances. It's like, we talk about these symptoms, and far too often, a lot of these things are umbrella diagnosed under PTSD. And whereas what we do at Stronghold Wellness is we try to define the PTSD a little bit more, which from my experience with the veterans I talk to every day, it really helps a lot, because most guys will be like, I don't know if I have PTSD. I've been diagnosed with it. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, and now they're prescribing me whatever medications, but they're like, I just don't think that's the case. And so, what we do at Stronghold Wellness is we talk about operator syndrome, which defines it can be a physical and mental thing. A set of conditions, sleep disturbance, chronic fatigue, chronic pain and inflammation, anxiety and depression, hormonal imbalances, brain fog and difficulty concentrating. And where do these things come from? Possibly hormone levels, possibly mental health, possibly stress injuries, trauma from whatever. But it's like, it's not just a simple stamp of PTSD approval. Now here you go. It's like, from my experiences, I think, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or whatever, but it's like defining it and actually finding the root of the problem will allow us to find better solutions for veterans. And so, that's what we try to do. I think that was a long-winded answer, and I don't know if I answered the question or not, but
No, it was perfect, dude. It was really, really well spoken about how it encapsulates the whole body view to mental health.
Sure.
And when it comes to females too, it's one of those things that like, guys, we're trying, right? You gotta like work with us here. We are trying. I just filmed a documentary specific to female veterans receiving psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. And one of the experts I had come on to brief them on their preparation was a hormone expert for females. So it's on our radar. We will be addressing it. We're trying to get ahead of it. One of the hardest parts about having this organization is being ahead of the system, is literally being ahead of Veterans Affairs and the mainstream medical establishment, where these treatments may be on the periphery and may be mainstream to us, but it's not to them. So here we are trying to fight these things and bring them up and show people and give them education on it when the system is asleep on it. And so give us a chance. We're going to try to address everybody. We do not mean to not talk about female hormones or any of that stuff. We're building it as we're flying it. And as Dustin said, like thousands and thousands of veterans we've spoken to, and it's not slowing down. So we're trying to manage stuff right now. We have a bunch of guys working underneath us, a bunch of people, men and women. Every time you phone us, you'll get linked in with a veteran who's steeped in experience, either with combat or with traumas, and the whole operator syndrome picture. That's exactly why we hired these people, is that they get it and they can speak to it from lived experience, as well as a knowledge base behind it. What is take me through the process. Take me through the process if someone wants to engage with Stronghold Wellness.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, right now it's pretty straightforward. You know, you might see one of our ads on social media right now. And so you can click on that ad and then it brings you to a short questionnaire. You answer a few of those questions and then it gives us your contact information. What we do with that information is that we'll give you a call to see what best suits your schedule to have more of an in-depth conversation. And so ideally what we try to do is if a veteran is interested in scheduling a call, we like to have these VTCs, video chat like this, so that we can, see the veteran in the face. They can see me and I can talk about, what we can do for them and how we can help them. And that's like super effective for both of us, for me to understand who this individual is as a person and what they're feeling, and for them to see me as a genuine veteran and someone who's genuinely trying to help them as well. So that's one way, is clicking the ads, or you can go to our website and there's information on our website, and scroll down to the bottom, I believe, and it's just like start the quiz here. So it brings you to the same quiz. You fill out the same information, and then once we have your information, we'll reach out to you, and we'll do our hardest to try to get in touch, and then see if you're available or interested for that call.
There's another branch to Stronghold Wellness that we've hit a couple times in this conversation so far, is that, hey, these treatment modalities are just that. They're treatments. They're interrupters. Again, right? They interrupt a physiological effect that's happening inside your body. That needs to get paired with psychotherapy. And as we've found out, it's astonishing that people who just have a therapist, clinician, psychologist, psychiatrist, hey, they can have all these accreditations, but what is their actual understanding and history with dealing with veterans in this subset population? And that's something that we've been trying to address, and I think we're trying to take a hold of it. But we've also been able to find different clinics across the country that are specific in veteran mental health. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So, I mean, until we build it ourselves, which is something that we want to do, Stronghold Wellness, we're hoping to become our own mental health clinic in the very near future. I think this fall is when we'd like to officially be up and running. And in the meantime, what we do is we work with clinics who, we do our best to vet clinics who understand, a veteran as much as they can, and so for right now, we do have the temporary solution, and they are doing a good job. the therapists that we're connecting veterans with. And so, yeah, so we do have that solution, but it's going to get better. Like the whole intent for Stronghold Wellness is, as we see the problem sets and the solutions, it's like, I think it's easier for us, and it would be better for us because, I think if we can hold the problem for as long as possible, we can provide a better solution. And I don't know if that really makes sense or if I articulated that really the best way, but when I'm talking about us becoming a mental health clinic, it's just like, now we can be accountable for that care. Right now, because we don't have the capacity to take that in-house, we do have to hand it off. And we hand it off to the best people that we know right now who can handle that. And until we can keep it in-house, that's just the way it's going to be. But when we do start this up ourselves, it's like the intent here is to build something that is going to, like, once again, going to be built off of creating results. There's the way things are right now, it can be effective for individuals, but I think we can do it better. I as far as like the therapist, the techniques, integrating some of these modalities like ketamine, like TMS and the SGB shots and other things, working those into those modalities into these treatment options with mental health professionals. I think we can be way more effective than what things are now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good you spoke about the SGB. So people might be wondering, SGB, stellate ganglion block, which is a lidocaine shot. So a nerve block they put in between your C6 and C7 vertebrae. In there's a stellate ganglia, which is a nerve bundle that controls your central nervous system. And when you get a lidocaine shot into it, again, you're interrupting this your physiological symptom, right? Your central nervous system, generally with post-traumatic stress and other mental health conditions, it's in an elevated state. So you're always like on edge, and it's the little things that's going to trip you up and upset you. Well, that's because your nervous system is literally in a hyper-aroused state all the time. And what they found is that a lidocaine shot, a block put in between your C6 and C7, shuts your nervous system off like a hard reset. And we both did it last year. Very interesting experience. For me personally, it felt like I smoked a huge indica joint, and not in a bad way, but it felt like a big blanket was put over me, and I could just feel everything get extremely calm right there in the moment. Yeah. And it was just a big heaviness, like a comforting heaviness in my system, in my body. So the stellate ganglion block, although it's not covered by Veterans Affairs, it should be absolutely covered by Veterans Affairs. I know that some provincial, I heard of a guy last week who got it covered by OHIP. I don't know what hospitals that's at. It's not that expensive to get. I would say it's about $600 to $1,100 is around average. It can be way more expensive, guys. Obviously, don't quote us on how much this stuff costs, especially because we're not a medical clinic. But from my information from the community has been around that price range. And really, again, this comes down to some self-ownership. Like, hey, do you want to get better? Well, you're going to have to pay some money. Like I spent, the first time I did Ibogaine, it cost me almost $10,000. You know what I mean? I've paid so much money for my own treatments, and it's really what you want to get out of it. And sometimes putting that money down is the thing that gets you to commit a little bit stronger and have a little bit more willpower going into it, saying, hey, I want this to work. I'm going to double down all the good behaviors. I'm going to go to my mental health appointments. I'm going to try to journal. I'm going to try to meditate. I'm going to try to do all the right things. And when you have a little bit of buy-in, it helps. So stellate ganglion block, what was your experience like with it?
Yeah, I would agree, man. Especially with like the structure of the treatment that I did the stellate ganglion block and then into ketamine a day or so later. But a thing on the SGB shots is like they've been doing this for decades. It's not like a new thing getting this shot. Don't quote me on this, but I think they've been doing it for decades for chronic pain. And so now they've realized, fairly recently that there's some really positive effects as far as like nervous system reset and mental health symptoms. And so, my experience was, getting the shot was very similar. It was similar to the TMS, in a way that it was like a weight just kind of was lifted. I just became lighter. It was like my guard kind of came down in a positive way. And it was just, it just kind of allowed me to be, more present, more just connected to the moment, in a sense. I don't know. It's really hard to articulate these experiences because they're so new, like when you do these things, you've been like fucking caged up for so long, and you've been tensed up for so long. And then now you like are relieved a little bit, and even a little bit's a lot. And now you're just like, holy man, it just, it changes you. It's like really profound. Yeah.
Again, back to the mental. No, that's fine. It's just like, again, it goes back to having a mental health care team around you to incorporate or integrate is the word, those experiences into the new you. Like we hear about preparation and integration all the time with psychedelics, but I firmly believe anytime that you're doing some sort of treatment modality that's going to change you significantly, or the possibility of changing you significantly, like transcranial magnetic stimulation, you should 100% have a mental health care team to walk through your integration. That could be 4 weeks of it, could be 8 weeks of it, could be ongoing. Integration never truly ends, guys, just a heads up. But having some sort of relief from a stellate ganglion block, and it's like you have been coiled up for so long, and now all of a sudden this fresh air comes in, that can be in itself challenging for a person to digest, to be like, whoa, my normal isn't this. My normal is hypervigilance, screw tightened so tight, and now it's not that. And that can be just as challenging for someone than living the experience that they were before.
Yeah. And to be able to maximize it, the thing here, it's like with any of these treatments, I go in it with a mindset where it's like, if I'm going to do this, I want to maximize it. I want to maximize the results. I want to maximize my healing as much as possible. I think that's just kind of my mindset, and a lot of veterans' mindset. And so, just doing it properly, doing it right, it just helps you maximize the effect of this stuff. And, like the window of opportunity here with like SGBs, it's, putting the onus on the veteran, like you mentioned. It's like when you go through these experiences, whether it's TMS, whether it's SGB shots or ketamine or a good mental health session, it's like, it's actually practicing what you're being taught, creating those habits, changing those bad habits. It's like, that's how we're going to lead to like longevity here, as far as, long-term health, positive health or positive health effects. So, we want to bring awareness around all these modalities because they are incredible, and they give you that window of opportunity to really change things for yourself, and to really like, take the next step forward that's going to be on the right path and not on the wrong one. And, but you like you mentioned earlier, it's like, we got to be accountable. We got to be accountable every step of the way. I'm going to do whatever I can to help every veteran I talk to, obviously. But at the end of the day, it comes down to that individual who actually wants to create change in their life for a better way. And, but these tools are a good kickstart. That's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely could be frustrating to drag the horse to the water, shove the horse's face in the water, scream at the horse to drink the water, and the horse still not drink the water. And that's an intangible that's not spoken about at all within the community. We just think, hey, shove this treatment modality in front of this guy and it's going to fix it. But in actuality, like deep down, this person does need to have some iota of wanting to change. And that can be buried. No, not throwing shade. That can be buried behind a lot of mental health, a lot of physical ailments that are holding this person down. And these treatment options give them that glimpse, give them that, just that window. And that's why when you have that window, you have to take it. You have to double down on the good behaviors, good eating, treating yourself well, having the mental health care team around you. It is the most important part about this, guys, is that these treatment, these modalities will open the door, but it's up for you to walk through it.
But that being said, like the reason why we created Stronghold Wellness is to be that support for veterans, is to be that backing, is to be that guy to, pick you up and be like, okay, let's keep going. Let's do this. And that's what we're trying to create. Every day we're getting better at figuring that out. And every day we're building more of our services and what we can actually do for veterans. And soon, we'll get to the point where I think we'll be a really strong support network for a support system for veterans across the board. If we're talking about treatments, if we're talking about mental health, services, and even like military cultural competency, it's like, this is one of the things that we're also doing kind of on the side as well, is like, we want to build out education for the therapists, for healthcare professionals across Canada, so that, they can get educated on Veteran 101 and know who a veteran is and their pains and their aches and pains and how to communicate with a veteran as best they can without actually being a veteran. We are really, really trying to think of this as like a whole ecosystem and creating an ecosystem where it's like based around effective healing, all results based. Like if you're going through Stronghold Wellness and you're still with us in a handful of years, still going through the same stuff, I'm not going to say we're not doing our job, because everyone's on their own journey. Everyone needs what they need, but I'm hoping that we can create something a little more effective than that.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm very confident. I'm very confident that we can.
Same.
Super confident. Same. Yeah.
We'll wrap this up, dude. So what would you want to say to a veteran out there right now?
Yeah, man. What I would want to say to a veteran, that's a great question. How I see it is, it's like there's how I kind of see it in three categories right now. I see it like serving members, transitioning veterans, and then veterans in crisis. Wherever you are in that system, in that sequence, if you're feeling any sort of like, if you just feel like you need to talk to someone, if you feel like you just want more information on these treatment modalities, if you feel like, I don't know, if you just feel like you're in need of something, Stronghold Wellness is here. Get booked on a call. I tell every veteran I talk to, it's just like, by the end of it, it's just like, first of all, I say, I appreciate your time. Thank you. Because everyone's time is extremely valuable. At the end of it, I tell them, you know what, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time. And even if you want to book a call just to have a chat with me, that is the message that I want to get out there. It's like, we have some really great tools here for veterans to get better, really great tools. But if you're ready for it, great. If not, I'm here just for a chat. And I think that's equally as important for veterans. So my message to veterans is like, Stronghold Wellness. My name is Dustin. I'm a veteran. I'm here for veterans, man. I'm here to help as much as I can.
Yeah, that conversation, I've never had a bad call, I guess is the way to say it, is that at the end of the conversation, there's supposed to be 15 minutes. It always, for me, I talk a lot. It always ends up being the full 30. And at the end of it, it's always a person to person, a human to human conversation with someone who gets it. And you can just like feel it in the call where this person's just like, yeah, okay, this guy gets it. This person understands what I'm saying without having to like do some giant history lesson or all these different intro sessions to figure out who you are. It's like, you can see right through it. And we're not clinicians. We're not doctors. We're just,
there's a lot of, and there's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of trust that they have in us. And I don't take that lightly, man, and I know obviously none of us do. And so it's like opening that, that kind of that trust circle kind of thing. It's like, I really, really respect that. And that's really important to me. And I really cherish that because, if they're going to open up to me, and allow me to help them, it's like, that's pretty incredible, man.
Yeah, it's quite fulfilling.
Yeah.
Let's do some quick sound bites.
I think like what veterans are really like not nervous about, but they're reluctant is to contact someone like Stronghold Wellness because they're just worried that it's going to be another fucking company who's trying to like, scalp them from whatever it is that they're trying to do, and so, that's the reason why we're doing this is because I want to put my face. I want to let veterans know who I am as a person and let them know that like I'm truly trying to, create a better system for them in their healing journey. And so I think, I think that's something right now that there's a lot of these veteran, clinics or whatever out there that might not have their intentions at heart. And so those might be some assumptions that some veterans might have towards Stronghold Wellness. And so, and I get it, man. I get it. I went through this whole system. I'm still going through a lot of it. And yeah, there's a lot of distrust. So all I got to say to that though is like, give us a chance, man. We're different. We're legit different. And we may, we're not perfect. I'm going to drop the ball every so often for sure. But I'm definitely going to, absolutely try my hardest for veterans.
Yeah. And we're going to own it. And it's really important to tell everyone too, is there's no money getting exchanged when you contact Stronghold Wellness. There's no money coming from Blue Cross. There's no money coming from veterans. It's actually an education company. We do make money. It comes from marketing. It comes from educating. It's doing talks, all this weird ancillary stuff that surrounds the veteran ecosystem, but it's nothing comes from a veteran.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell veterans about these therapy options and what we can do to help them. But, but I'll never pressure anyone to do, like, I'll bring it up. I'll bring the awareness there to them, but I'll be like, man, you do this when it works for you, when you feel it's right. If you have any questions in your head, we're here to help you answer that. But if you're just not ready, you're not ready, dude. So, yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot of stress off too. It's made the job way more enjoyable because it's not a thing of like a salesman trying to get numbers up. It's like, take it or not take it, dude. That's cool. And I find the distrust rolls back into that, where a lot of the conversations I have are left with like a person being like way more curious about it once they see that you're just a dude and you're not like slinging something trying to make money, that you can see it turn inside their own brain where they're like, oh, these guys are just trying to help. And it's because we're not trying to make money off you. So it take it or leave it. This stuff's really important.
Yeah. And it's funny too, well, it's not funny, but at the end of the conversation that I had with veterans, it's like, please, we're a veteran owned and operated business. We're small. We are growing. Spread the word. If you know anyone who could benefit from a conversation like this, tell them and get them in touch with us. And the reply, I would say 100% of the time is like, absolutely. Yeah. I think I know a couple guys. I think I know a couple people who could really benefit from this. So, there you go.
Damn. That was a great conversation, brother. This is episode number 1. You did great. You look great on film. So
my first go, dude.
I'm excited to, I popped your cherry. That got weird. I'm excited for the world to find out who Dustin is and find out more about Stronghold Wellness. And I think you're going to be a great ambassador for the organization.
We got some really, really credible things building, man. And, and we're doing this together. Myself, Dave, and the rest of our team, and then like the veteran community. It's like we're definitely gonna, we're gonna create some freaking waves here, man, in a good way.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Sweet.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Episode 1 from the floor. Stronghold Wellness. Dustin Wiebe, former CSOR operator, close protection, recce sniper dog from 2 PPCLI, with the cherry on top of being a SOF special missions expert from the Special Missions Unit. I think I messed that up at the end, and that's fine. All right, homie. We'll talk soon, dude.
Yeah. Have a good one, man.
See you.